Hi, welcome to Elizabeth McSweeney, Fibromyalgia, Road to Recovery audio support material. This is the 12th YouTube audio in this series and it's mid-March 2020 and I have self-isolation syndrome, which reminds me of how it felt when I suffered from fibromyalgia. Now, I'm not talking about the constant pain causing fatigue, but the social and cultural isolation that is a result of both. So if you are feeling socially and culturally and emotionally isolated through fibromyalgia, I know how you feel, so stay with me, hang in there. I'm glad that fibromyalgia is now classed in the UK as a disability, an invisible disability, but that in itself is a double-edged sword. If you have recently been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, you have to challenge that myth that it's a long life, incurable disease. It's certainly a disease and it's certainly a chronic condition, but I managed to recover from it, which means that you can too. So my intention in 2020 is to devote time every week to making one more YouTube broadcast that can help you. And also I have launched Green Lotus Lounge, a UK CBD company, in order to raise funds for more vital research into cannabis and its efficacy or uses in the fibromyalgia condition. Now, there's loads of amazing research that's been coming out of Israel about this for 20 years, but there are calls for much needed UK based research, and you can find our amazing full plant extracts on Amazon under whole hemp or whole plant, and look for the gold bottles, the green bottles, or the green lotus art of cannabis label. And I'm asking you to do this because you're not just supporting me, but when you buy from Green Lotus, we will support the UK Fibromyalgia Association by donating 10% of our profits at the year end. So as you walk your path to recovery, you'll also be helping other people that follow. As we establish our brand, we will be crowdfunding and supporting crowdfunding for crucial research into to build on the Israeli research into how the relationship between cannabis and fibromyalgia. So great, let's all help each other. These are weekly recordings, so last week I missed one. My apologies to Antonella Farah, who joined the Lotus Natural Healing channel by subscribing last week, or the week before rather, I should say. Welcome, Antonella. I wasn't self-isolating last weekend. Actually, I was with 399 other people at a Property Investor Strategy Implementation Live conference. That's a mouthful. One of the things that having fibromyalgia taught me was that I needed to earn a living by using my head, because in those days my body was not in a good state at all. So I do tend to think a little bit outside the box. Please do join me. If you're suffering from fibromyalgia, you have to become a wizard at being efficient when we have fibromyalgia, because the exhaustion and toxicity of chronic pain also causes a condition called fibro fog, or known as fibro fog, which is a bit like having early onset dementia. And again, I say to you, recovery is possible, so don't worry. And next time you have fibro fog, I would urge you, as a matter of course, to rest and to rehydrate. So drink a pint of water and rest. While you're resting, stay with me, because today we're still focusing on volume 5, or book 5 of the Fibromyalgia Road to Recovery series. Now, I know the average listener stays tuned for just a few minutes, but I hope I can entice you to stay with me on this journey. So we're now around minute 3. Stay with me, because your own healing journey really does start here. I'm going to recap those all-important 7 healing principles that emerged to frame my own recovery practice. They emerged from my research, and we're going to look at the healing principles number 5, which played an extremely important role in my recovery, and which I really hope is going to help you. I'm convinced it's going to help you with yours. So My name's Lily. I wrote about my recovery from fibromyalgia in the 5 ebooks that are available now available on Amazon, so you can follow the link below. They were written in my pen name or my birth name, Elizabeth Day or Elizabeth McSweeney, and that was 10 years ago. Now, I'd been ill for 12 years. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia for 7, and I was debilitated by the condition to such a severe degree that I had a UK disability badge for 3 of those years. Now, I was, however, very lucky to access some great help from both NHS doctors and private practitioners, and I found a 360 degree healing framework for recovery, a framework that, if it's going to be successful, as it can be, it must take into account the healing of the body, the mind, and your spiritual approach. Fibromyalgia, as you know, is a debilitating chronic pain syndrome, and it causes chronic fatigue, depression, sleep disturbance, and food sensitivities and IBS are all also prevalent. Now, it's a systemic condition which usually starts with a string of traumas, and that was the first of my research revelations. I was determined to overcome fibromyalgia, and my research with Fibromyalgia Association UK led me to realise that my experience of suffering from a series of physical, mental, emotional and spiritual traumas and abuse was not unique to me, and everyone who wrote to me with their life stories and clinical trajectories of fibromyalgia had also suffered a trail of abuse or particular deep trauma, and so prolonged. And so the first healing principle is healing trauma and healing post-traumatic stress. Now, I have yet to find a more effective treatment for post-traumatic stress than EMDR. That's E for elephant, M for Michael, D for Doris, and R for rainbow. It's not actually. EMDR is rapid eye movement desensitization therapy, and here in the UK it is authorised by NICE, the National Institute for Health Care and Excellence. So it is difficult, though not totally impossible, to access EMDR therapy through the NHS here in the UK, but I would urge you, wherever you are in the world, to use any money that you have coming in to access EMDR therapy to heal your trauma related conditions, including post-traumatic stress, because we have a whole 360-degree holistic approach to recovering from fibromyalgia, and it's really important to start with those causes, or just causes. So that brings me back to the second healing principle, that whole holistic approach, body, mind and soul. The second healing principle is cracking that insomnia, disturbed sleep and chronic pain cycle. So in volumes 2, 3 and 5 of the ebook series, I researched a whole load of evidence linking sleep disturbances with fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia has a unique sleep disturbance pattern, unlike any other sleep disturbance brain patterns. That's all. If you want to read the research, it's all in the books. The jury is out, however, on whether the sleep disturbance is a symptom or a cause of the pain in fibromyalgia or the condition. Now, it's certainly a vicious cycle. Chronic sleep disturbance causes pain, and that leads to that chronic pain causes sleep disturbance and so on. So we did discuss the physiology of that in much more detail, and the relationship between the fight or flight of trauma and sleep disturbance in earlier audios, and of course in the books, right? That goes into the medical information and the research. But I think earlier audios, particularly audio 2, do go and listen to that if that's what you're particularly interested in the insomnia or sleep disturbance and pain cycle. And you'll find medical information at the end of volume 4. You'll find a yoga nidra sleep meditation, and volume 2. I said volume 4, I meant volume 2, sorry. And also, if you listen to the second audio recording in the series, fast forward to about 2/3 of the way through, and I will take you into a deep, relaxing, sleep-inducing guided yoga nidra meditation. So if you know anyone who could get together with me to compose a track of binaural beats or relaxation music to go with it, please do let me know. You're going to need as many resources as you can on your journey to full recovery from fibromyalgia, and you're going to need to be determined and focused on nothing but your healing journey. So this brings me on to the third healing principle, which was elucidated from my research and my own experience progressing towards full recovery, and that is total deacidification of your body right down to a cellular level. Again, you can find in the ebooks fully cited medical research papers explaining the cell acidification related to the fibromyalgia condition. If you want to read more, just follow the links below, or you can find more on the internet. Following a strict, and I mean strict, alkaline diet was just one of the 360-degree protocols that I used to recover fully, body, mind and spirit, on my journey through fibromyalgia and out the other side into full health. Now, it's incredibly important that you don't just add a few alkalizing recipes or whatever to your diet, but that you follow a strict alkaline diet until you have reached full physical recovery, and only an alkaline diet until you have reached that physiological balance back. And by which I mean the pain has gone, the fatigue has gone. So, ebooks volume 4 and 5 are full of my favourite recipes, and if you want to catch up with, they're not full of my favourite recipes, the appendix to them is full of my favourite recipes. And if you want to catch up with me on Twitter at fibrofree and at Elizabeth McSwee, I think I might have lost the password to that one. Anyway, if you go there, and please share your favourite recipes yourself, because that would be really helpful to everybody, and it would be lovely for me to see them. And I'm always grateful for your help in sharing this information as widely as you can. So let's take a moment to just envelope ourselves in a feeling of gratitude. Thank you. Gratitude for the smallest pleasure of the day. Great. In the last audio recording, I spoke at length about the FFT tapping protocol which I devised, which was based upon Gary Craig's well-known EFT protocol. EFT, or the Emotional Freedom Technique, is a body tapping technique. It wasn't so well known 10 years ago, and there are several variations on the technique now. Now, I devised FFT, a fibro-free technique or fibromyalgia freedom technique, by adding some valuable acupressure points specifically to help alleviate the pain, particularly in the fibromyalgia pressure points. And I replaced the tapping with a rubbing technique because many people with fibromyalgia are suffering so much pain that tapping of the body can cause disturbance rather than the healing of rubbing. So that's interesting because the World Health Organization classed fibromyalgia as a rheumatic soft tissue disorder. So there certainly is pain in the soft tissue, and they class that because of the pain and sensitivity that people with fibromyalgia present with, but it isn't actually a neurological condition. And if you it isn't actually a rheumatological condition, it is actually a neurological condition. And if you want to know the specific FFT or fibro freedom technique protocol, you will have to look at the book. You'll have to look at book 5, and in the appendix you will find some diagrams, and there's a whole script that will help you learn that tapping technique. I particularly like it because it's something you can teach yourself, you can learn yourself, and it's not something that has to be done to you. It's a self-help therapy or framework you can use for yourself. I will get around to making a video for YouTube, I promise, but on the FFT technique. But today I want to move on to the healing principle number 5. Now, okay, we're like well into past 11 minutes in, and thank you for staying with me up to this point. And I want to say now, if you found anything I said in the past 11-12 minutes in the least bit helpful, please share the URL of this recording on YouTube and Twitter and by text message and by email, because I really want to get this message out there that since I recovered fully from fibromyalgia 10 years ago, since I did it, so can you, right? So there's hope. There is hope, and I want to get that message spread as widely as possible. So if you found anything helpful, please share it. And please do stay with me for the other half of this audio, because now we're going to delve into the healing power of homeopathy. Now, the next audio in the series will cover the healing powers of water in greater detail, followed by the principle of Eshofuni. That was my 7th healing principle. That is our relationship with the environment. And then we will have completed the audio series supporting the recovery protocol that is found in volume 5 of the ebook series. Then that's going to free us onto moving onto information about the endocannabinoid system and its role in recovery from fibromyalgia. Now, that wasn't something I knew about 10 years ago when I recovered and when I wrote the ebook series, but it is something that I can help you learn more about now, or you can help yourself learn more about now, and it is something that can help you recover, and it's one more thing in that 360-degree armoury that is going to help you recover from this condition. So do please stay with me for the rest of this recording, and come back and listen to it later, if you know, again, because we're now covering healing principle number 5, which is the principle of homeopathy. Now, do bear with me whether you already use homeopathy or not, or whether you know nothing about it at all. We're going to spend the next few minutes focusing on some homeopathic treatments, some specific treatments that may help you to cope with and ultimately to recover from the insidious, soul-destroying condition that is fibromyalgia. So, please come with me on this journey towards recovery, and let's take a moment to understand how homeopaths and anthroposophic doctors see dis-ease. They do not see illness as a result of accident or mechanical breakdown, but as ultimately connected to the whole person and as a potentially positive experience. Now, I know it might sound difficult to find positivity within the pain of fibromyalgia condition, but there are some incredible positives along this journey, and the first is hope. Another is compassion. Through experiencing this disease, you're actually helping other people to reveal their innate compassion, which is one of the roles of the Buddha. You know, one of the roles of the Buddha is not just to have compassion, but it's to help other people reveal their compassion. So every time you reach out and accept the help of strangers, this happens. And so you're a little bodhisattva. And also, in order to recover, you must find a deep, deep compassion for yourself and allow yourself to heal. So ultimately, empathy is one of the gifts that this experience is bringing you today. So homeopathic remedies can help fibromyalgia in very practical ways. You may not believe in homeopathy, you may not believe that fibromyalgia is curable, but I used homeopathy to recover, so I can testify that for me at least it worked, and there is no reason why the right remedy won't work for you. And there is the key, finding the right unique remedy for you. Homeopathic remedies help with pain, insomnia and detoxification, as well as deeper, deeper permanent healing. Derived from the Greek words homeos, meaning similar, and pathos, meaning suffering, the word homeopathy itself means like cures like. It is based on the knowledge that a substance which would normally produce symptoms in a body, or the symptoms similar to the patient's suffering, will in minute dilutions trigger the body to cure those symptoms. These dilutions are called potencies. The founder of homeopathy, Samuel Hahnemann, in the 18th and 19th century believed that the more dilute a substance, the more potent the remedy. Now, it does sound rather counterintuitive. He created the centesimal scale, the C scale, by diluting a substance 100 times. In other words, a 2C dilution is a substance diluted by 100 and then taken again and diluted by 100 again. I think that gives a dilution of 10,000. Now, homeopaths still debate rules about dosage and potency and prefer to tailor both potencies and dosage and remedies to individuals presenting to them as patients, but a general rule is that acute physical conditions, new short-term symptoms, for example headache, a sore throat, a pain that is short-lived, one perhaps you haven't experienced before, should be treated with lower potencies, that is less dilute, such as 6 or 30C, which is why these potencies are commonly available over the counter in high street pharmacies. Without homeopathic consultation, and chronic long-term physical and more emotional symptoms can be treated with higher potencies, that is more dilute, over 30C. Now, an important principle of homeopathy is giving individuals a close fit remedy, where a detailed history of your unique symptoms are important in distinguishing the correct remedy for you. Now, this close fit or profile of a specific homeopathic remedy is worked out by a method called proving. And this is how the remedies are found, in which remedies are given to healthy volunteers in order to observe what symptoms they trigger, and then the remedy is given to patients with those symptoms, and that goes back to Joseph Hahnemann's like curing like, and that is basically the evidence base and the proving of homeopathy. So I hope you're still with me, because here is a couple of gems, 3 of the most useful remedies chosen for the fibromyalgia condition in research trials. Now, they are arnica, bryony, and Russ Tox. So the research trials that I refer to are all cited and referenced at the end of the chapter. I think this is in volume 5 of the ebooks. This is because this is the audio support, more audio support for volume 5 of the ebooks. So if you want to find out more about those research trials, see the end of those chapters. So 3 of the most useful proven remedies for fibromyalgia are arnica, bryonia, and Russ Tox. Arnica is indicated for physically restless individuals when fibromyalgia symptoms leave them feeling bruised, as if they feel like they're sleeping on a very hard bed, and when current symptoms are manifestations of identifiable, usually physical trauma. Bryonia fits well for people who tend to feel grumpy when they're disturbed, people with fibromyalgia who need to lay still because the slightest movement will aggravate their pain, and for whom pain is comforted by cool compresses rather than warmth. Now that's a really important indicator, because most people suffering from fibromyalgia are exacerbated by cold, but for some people the pain is exacerbated by cold, but for some people it is heat that makes the pain and fatigue worse. And in this case, if you are left irritated by the slightest aggravating pains, then bryonia may well be the remedy for you. And the third one, Russ Tox, is proven to be one of the most useful remedies for fibromyalgia. And again, if you want to read about the research evidence for that, it's cited fully at the end of the chapter in ebook volume 5. So Russ Tox is indicated for people who benefit from keeping as active as possible, individuals for whom pain, particularly deep in the hip joint, is aggravated by cool and damp, and better for warmth and dry. Now, it's important to remember that remedies which are not a close fit may have little impact on your symptoms. For example, although my symptoms were very much indicated by Russ Tox, Russ Tox seemed to have very little effect on me. Now, I use the word seemed because homeopathy can often be a very slow, subtle and nuanced treatment and path to deep healing. However, arnica, the classic remedy for trauma, had an instant yet profound effect on me. And one more thing about arnica is that I found it to be an extremely useful remedy to help with insomnia and sleep disturbance. So another very useful remedy which helped me personally to recover from chronic fatigue aspect of fibromyalgia was Homeopathic Spectrum. Now, this remedy was also brilliant for me because it helped me to overcome that fear of flare-up and the fear of fibro flare. The fear itself becomes a nuanced fear of recovery and a symptom in itself. I used to be very fit before I had fibromyalgia, and 10 years later, 10 years after recovery, I've never really recovered those levels of pre-fibro fitness, and that fear of fibro flare still haunts me today. So maybe it's time for me to invest in some more Homeopathic Spectrum. While writing the ebooks and reading them again recently and making these audios, I've been putting together a list of resources that might help you along your healing journey. Well, they will. Gather all the resources you can, and I really must add Homeopathic Spectrum to that list of useful resources or armoury, and maybe I should invest in some more for myself. Now, it really was a profound remedy for me, Homeopathic Spectrum. Created by homeopath Ambika Waters, it's homeopathic colour, or more precisely, homeopathic rainbow. Now, I know it sounds improbable, but it had a profound effect on my own energy levels, and I highly recommend it for anyone who has chronic fatigue. Although over-the-counter homeopathic remedy can help in acute healing situations. For example, arnica proves particularly useful for trauma and at helping to alleviate pain and to induce sleep. I sincerely recommend you make an appointment with a personal classical homeopath. Now, I do hear, and the reason I'm making this recommendation sincerely is that I do hear people suffering from fibromyalgia who say, oh, I tried homeopathy and it didn't work. Well, what they're really saying is that they haven't yet found the correct remedy for themselves, the one that is the best fit for them uniquely. And it's like when rheumatologists and GPs tell you there is no cure for homeopathy. What they are really saying is that they don't have a cure to offer you in this moment, but moments change. We never step into the same piece of river twice because the water is always moving, and our next audio support material is actually about the healing powers of water. So I'd like to leave you with these thoughts that a classically trained homeopath will sit down and discuss your full medical, family and emotional history in order to prescribe the best remedy, one intimately connected to your body, mind and soul, one intimately tailored, ultimately tailored to your specific needs at this time. And this last thought, a quick recap of those 3 remedies found consistently through robust research to be the most helpful for people presenting with fibromyalgia symptoms, and they are arnica, A-R-N-I-C-A, arnica, which is indicated for physically restless individuals whose fibromyalgia symptoms leave them feeling bruised. So if you wake every morning as if you've slept on a hard surface, or if your current symptoms are manifestations of identifiable and known, usually physical trauma, then arnica may be the remedy for you. Bryonia, B-R-Y-O-N-I-A, for people who tend to feel grumpy when disturbed, who need to lay still because the slightest movement aggravates the pain, and crucially and uniquely for whom pain is comforted by cool compresses rather than warmth. Now, if this sounds like you, Bryonia may be a good remedy for you to start with, so do. Third, Rhus tox, R-H-U-S-T-O-X, is indicated for you if you experience benefit from keeping as active as possible, if your pain is particularly deep in your hip joints and is aggravated by cool and damp conditions and helped by warmth and dry, then Rhus tox may be a good homeopathic fit for you. And lastly, can I say again, thank you so much for staying with me today. Thank you for finding me, because it shows as much to you as it does to me that you are now determined to recover from fibromyalgia. And please, if you have found even the smallest piece of information in today's audio helpful, please do like and share and pass it on, so between us we can help as many people as possible.